So what we have on this side is the minisforum UM690, and that features the Ryzen 6900HX processor, and it's absolutely tiny. It's like a third of the size of this guy over here, which is the Mac Mini M2 base model, and both of them cost about the same. In fact, the Windows one is slightly more expensive, around $50 more expensive, or if you're looking at Amazon, quite a few $100 more expensive. But the question is, putting them head to head, which one is actually better? And the conclusion might surprise you, so let's find out. I'm running a competition on these Mac Minis as well as this 13600K CPU, and if you want to get one of these for a quid or $1, then stick till the end of the video to learn more. CCL is the one-stop shop for all your creator PC needs. Whether you're looking for PC parts to upgrade, full systems, laptops, monitors, peripherals, you name it, CCL's got it. With their competitive pricing and great reviews, it's a no-brainer. Use the code TN10 to get a special discount when spending over £250. So for your next purchase, consider checking out CCL in the video description below. If you want to buy or pick up either one of these PCs, then check the links out in the video description below. Okay, we've got quite a few things going on over here. There's going to be both PCs going here, as you can see, and then we're also going to be measuring the power consumption, which these days is very, very important as well. But let's start with the specs and what do these two PCs actually feature. In terms of cores and threads, the M2 features 4 P cores and 4 E cores, which altogether is 8 cores and 8 threads. Because this is an ARM architecture, it doesn't support multi-threading. But the UM690 has 8 cores and 16 threads, so there's 8 performance cores and they are full thread cores. This is actually a laptop chip there as well. Well, both of them are laptop chips on these little desktop units. In terms of neural engine, the Mac Mini has a 16-core neural engine, which the Windows PC doesn't have. The GPU is a 10-core M2 GPU inside the Mac Mini. And then on the UM690, we have a 12-core Radeon GPU. But those two architectures are completely different, so the cores don't mean a thing in this comparison. The SSD is 256 gigabytes on the Mac Mini M2 and 512 gigabytes on the UM690. The RAM is 8 gigabytes of unified memory on the Mac Mini M2 and then 16 gigabytes of DDR5 4800 megatransfers per second on the UM690. The maximum RAM you can have on the Mac Mini is 24 gigabytes, and that's going to cost quite a few $100s for you. But on the UM690, we can have 64 gigabytes of maximum RAM. In the future, it might be even more when we have bigger than 32 gigabyte UDIM RAM sticks. Then we might have even more. The Bluetooth is 5.3 on the Mac and 5.2 on the Windows PC. Both have Wi-Fi 6E. In terms of the LAN, the Mac has a 1 gigabit Ethernet. The Windows PC has 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. In terms of fast USB-C connectivity, the Mac has 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, whereas the mini PC here has 1 USB 4 port. When we're looking at the port selection here, the Mac Mini doesn't have a lot here. 2 Thunderbolt ports, 1 HDMI, LAN, and then 2 USB Type A's and mic and headphone jack combo over there. If we are looking at the mini PC, then we can see 2 USB-C ports in the front, one of them USB 4 and then one of them 10 gigabit USB-C port and then headphone and mic combo jack. And then on the back we have a 2.5 gig LAN, 4 5 gigabit USB Type A ports, and then 2 HDMI ports. So depending on your needs, they both have kind of their edge in the port selection. But one huge thing that goes for this Windows PC is that the RAM, the SSD, and the Wi-Fi card is actually upgradable. You can swap them out to bigger ones or better ones, but the Mac Mini, however you buy it, that's going to be the final configuration. Okay, when we've opened Cinebench here, we can see that both of them idle quite similar kind of wattages. 8 watts on the M2 and 7.7 on the Windows PC. The Mac has actually one Thunderbolt SSD enclosure plugged in, so that's gonna take extra power there, which we don't have on the Windows PC. So there's a little bit more power going on from there if we took that one out, but some of the benchmarks are on there, so I'm going to leave that one plugged in. First of all, we're going to do a single multi-core CPU test here on both systems, and we're going to look at the temperatures as well. The UM690 is pulling about 83, 88 watts, M2 27 watts there, 84 watts, I saw peak there, 86 watts. The Mac Mini is running roughly about 65 degrees maximum, and the Mini PC, interestingly, is running about the same, 65 degrees maximum, 66 here. Let's see the Mac Mini, about 66, about the same, which is very, very interesting. Even though it's pulling 26 watts, so about 2.5 times less wattage, but we're running the same temperatures. 70 degrees and 69 degrees, so there's only, see again, 70 degrees here on the Mac Mini maximum. Let's see what the end result will be. So we have the test completed on both of the systems, and looking at the Windows PC, the maximum we hit about was 76 degrees and the Mac was about 71 degrees. But the interesting thing is the Windows PC is actually much smaller than the Mac Mini, pulls much more power, but runs only about 6 degrees at peak hotter. But that was like when it peaked at first, but then it actually stays around 72, 73 degrees, something like that, which is just about 1-2 degrees warmer than the Mac Mini that pulls 2.5 times less wattage, which just shows how good the cooling is on that little mini PC. The multi-core performance is massively better on the mini PC. As you can see, 8,447 on the Mac and 13,218 on UM690. Doing the single core test now, I can see that the M2 is pulling about 14 watts when doing single core, but the UM690 about 33 watts, so about 2.5 times again more. In terms of noise though, the M2 Mac Mini is completely quiet. Like, you don't hear the fans, anything. You can hear a little bit of the fan of the UM690, but it's kind of like a medium range laptop fan speed that you'd hear. They're not like going or like an airplane taking off. You can just hear, you can hear some fans, but to me that's not annoying. This is very well tuned, so I think it's all right. So looking at the Cinebench R23 results, the M2 is faster in the multi-core speeds, but the UM690 is about 56% faster in the multi-core speeds. So now Geekbench, multi-core and single core. Interestingly, the UM690 is getting very high clock speeds. Look at that, 4.9 gigahertz on one of the cores. Core 5 has reached 4.9 gigahertz here, as you can see, which is very, very high, almost 5 gigahertz, as you can see. 20 watts, 80 watts I saw there, 25, 29. Interestingly, the Mac actually finished the score much faster than the Windows PC. But in Geekbench, we can see a much bigger difference between the single and multi-core speeds. As you can see, the Mac is much faster in the single core here, 1,900 points and 1,600 points on the PC, which is about 15.8 or 15.9% slower on the Windows PC. But the multi-core speed is actually about 11% faster on the Windows PC, which is interesting because we still have 8 cores and 8 cores, because now Geekbench doesn't actually utilize multi-threading. It doesn't count the threads, it's only per core kind of performance. So we can see that per core is better on the Windows PC, but it's faster cores on the Mac. While we're here, let's also do the GPU benchmark on both of these machines on Geekbench 5. So we're going to open the OpenCL and go. 38 watts maximum on the UM690, about 15 watts max on the M2. Okay, now 19 watts or so there. So interestingly now, the OpenCL score is actually faster on the Windows PC. It's about 23% faster. Let's also do Vulkan, and on Mac we're gonna do Metal. So let's see. 38 and about 20 in there on M2. But here now the tables have turned. The Mac got 30,697 points and the mini PC got 28,681 points, which is about 6.5 or 6.6% slower on the Windows PC. So next we're going to look at the Blender, and here we have the M2 CPU part of this. We'll see if we can do GPU as well. So AMD Radeon 6900HX with Radeon graphics. Let's go. Both of them are going, and let's see the results now. 78, 86, 89 watts pulled, 26 watts pulled. It's literally more than 3 times the wattage on Windows PC. The Mac is pretty constantly at 26 watts. Windows PCs between 75 to 80 watts, something like that. Interesting, the warming up junk shop scene is actually taking much longer on the Mac than on the Windows PC. Pulling 76 watts from the socket on the PC and about 21 watts from the Mac. 73 degrees on the Windows PC and about 56 maximum on the Mac Mini. Okay, Windows PC completed it much faster, but now we're looking at the classroom scene here. The Mac is 69 degrees, 70 degrees maximum there. So when we're looking at the Mac results here, we can see that there's something interesting going on. Obviously in junk shop scene, there's some kind of a driver error, or it's not actually utilizing or can't do it completely there. With these just M2 CPU cores. The Windows PC gets much higher results. You can see Monster Scene with 27% faster. Junk Shop Scene, obviously there's an error, but it's about 10 or 12 times faster there. And then the Classroom Scene is 34% faster. So now let's try the GPU on Blender as well. I don't know if either of them are actually gonna work, so we'll see. Warming up on both of these. Let's see if they can actually get some benchmark results here as well. Okay, Windows PC is actually benchmarking 62, 63 watts going through the GPU. But interestingly, we can see about 43% is still on the CPU package there. Because if we go here to GPU, it's the same kind of package power that goes through the GPU because it's all integrated. So the sensors are reading a little bit all sorts of stuff there. Okay, the Mac is actually benchmarking here as well. 17.5 watts pulled. About the same wattage whether we're on CPU or GPU. 18 watts, not much different because it's all like integrated. The GPU is actually integrated onto the, CPU die on there as well. It's not separately, it's all on the same die because it's like integrated. 22, 23 watts on the M2 there. 71, 73, so 80 watts there pulled for a second. Okay, the Mac got an error there. Let's try doing it again, downloading and seeing if we actually get some kind of result through on the GPU there. So the mini PC completed the benchmark, and when we're looking at the result, I'm actually quite surprised because I didn't think it's actually going to be beneficial to run it on the GPU, on the integrated GPU there. But as you can see, it is kind of worth it on the Monster Scene where we are faster on the GPU. The Junk Shop Scene is actually slower on the GPU than on the CPU on the UM690, and the Classroom Scene is still faster on the GPU. So depending on your scene, you might be using the GPU or you might get some kind of benefit using that on the mini PC. But let's see if we can get some kind of results here from the M2 GPU. And again, we've got an error, so we're gonna have to say that the Mac did not finish on that. So if you are using Blender, I'd suggest you use the CPU cores. Maybe it's going to work on the GPU, but there's a point actually to be made here that the Apple Silicon still is not 100% supported in all of the applications. Depending, what you're running there, it still might have to run some kind of a translation, kind of a code or software to get it translated to the ARM. So that's what we see here on Blender. Next of all, Speedometer 2.0 going on both of these machines. The M2 is pulling about 10.3 watts, the UM690 about 18 watts, so about double the amount of wattage you can see on the UM690. So we've got our results here, and the M2 got 414 points And then the UM690 got 262 points, which is a huge difference. We're using both, you know, Edge and Safari, so kind of the native browsers for both of them. But what I want to do is I want to test this again just to see if we're going to get a second test as, you know, good or as big of a difference. We can see that the Mac here is plus minus 26, whereas the mini PC was plus minus, what was it, 3, 4 or something like that. So for some reason the kind of error of these results was a little bit less on the Windows PC. And the second test completed and the Windows PC got even bigger of a battering here on the second test and is about 40% slower here on the second test, 426 and 254. So a clear win for the browser on a Mac. Now here's something that I've actually done previously on the Mac here. I did the Pugetbench score, and as you can see, I've got the results here, and I did the same on the Windows PC just to see what's the type of, you know, video editing performance in Premiere Pro. And you might be saying, oh, that's not completely fair because, you know, you should be editing on Final Cut or Davinci Resolve or so on. And yeah, that's what you should be doing, but this is one of those things that is on both of them. In a moment, you're going to see Davinci Resolve export tests as well that will work on both, but just to show you the results, that the M2 is much better at video editing just because it's got those encoders in there, the media engines, you know, that playback ProRes, H.264 and 5. You can see here the standard playback is 62.1 compared to the 24.2, which is a huge difference. And when we're looking at the actual percentage of these two, the UM690 is 44% slower in the standard overall, 41 in the export score, and 61% slower in the standard live playback score. The effects are 18% slower and the GPU score is 21% slower. So the Mac gets quite a big win here on the Pugetbench Premiere Pro. Bear in mind, this is actually native version for the Premiere Pro for this as well. But I've seen some people get even higher scores, maybe perhaps because they're running newer Premiere Pro. So I do think the Mac has actually even more in store in terms of the video editing performance there than what we're seeing actually in this benchmark results. So how do you get these two Mac Minis for £1? Well, here's how. I am raffling both of these away just to support the channel and just to give back for you guys something for, you know, subscribing and watching and things. So I have created a profile and the raffle competitions on raffle.com. And the reason I'm doing it apart from there is just to give a little bit of protection for you who are watching this or who want to enter this raffle or wants to have a bit of fun and put a quid in and see if you can actually win one of these. It's 100% legit. This is worldwide. Only thing you have to enter is go in the link in the description. You don't need to follow or do anything in the social media channels. Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram if you want to, but you don't have to. All you have to do is go in the raffle site, enter for £1 a ticket, and that's it. This PC can be yours. And if you want to win more or get more chances to win, get 2 tickets and so on. So this is completely up to you. The winner of this will be drawn on my channel as well, and you'll get a notification on there as well. But this is trusted site. It's something that gives you protection and me a little bit of credibility, so you can be sure that you can win something completely hassle-free, and this will be delivered to you at the doorstep for just £1. This is just crazy. I'm so excited that someone's gonna get one of these or both of these Mac Minis for £1 or $1. Check it out in the description below. And next, what I wanted to do is test the exporting capabilities of both of these two machines. So if you're video editing, how good is it in exporting? Let's say you want to use it as, I don't know, maybe rendering machine because it's small, quite more power efficient perhaps. So you want to put it somewhere connected to your NAS, like you can do in here. You can get 10 gigabit port for extra $100 for the Mac Mini, or the 2.5 gig LAN in here. You can just connect it directly to your NAS. You get quite fast connectivity. Could you use this as like a rendering type of machine? So what I did was I took one of my projects here. This was the RTX 4090 review that we did, and I loaded exactly all of those things on both of these machines and then just exported that project to the desktop to see how long did it take. So as you can see, this is one of the problems that you will be facing with the Mac Mini. As you can see, it's saying that we're running out of, you know, memory on here, because obviously we need some kind of more memory, because we only have 8 gigabytes of unified memory. So some of this will be system memory, some of them GPU memory. So that's why we're kind of running out of RAM here. So we'll just try to close some of these things here. So this is one of the projects just to show you kind of what's going on in this system. We've got a roll, and there is actually, this is a multicam, and just to show you that there is 2 cameras inside, the main 6K and then side cam that you can see on here as well, the same type of thing. Then we have all sorts of kind of overlays, B-roll, crafts, all sorts of things going on in there at the same time. So what we did was we took all of this project, which was about 22 minutes and 26 seconds, and we exported this to 1080p YouTube settings on both of these devices onto desktop. When we're looking at the results, the M2 Mac Mini got it done in 33 minutes and 22 seconds, which is 2002 seconds, and the UM690 got it done at 6362 seconds, which is 1 hour 46 minutes and 2 seconds, which is a huge win for the Mac here, which makes me think it could be good at just like an exporting or rendering kind of machine. It's very efficient, connected to your NAS with 10 gigabit Ethernet, but I'd recommend definitely upgrading the RAM, because that 8 gigabytes is not enough, especially when you're doing some of the bigger video editing exports and you're exporting, it will run out of memory. Then I also did a Davinci Resolve export test, and as you can see, I have a timeline here. And if you've seen some of my tests, what I'm doing in there, you'll see this very, very familiar there. But basically, this half of the timeline is all sorts of 4K, 6K, 8K, 12K clips, all of these put together. And then they're going to be exported into, again, YouTube 1080p settings. Half of this, as you can see, the blue, it has color grade, noise reduction, curves, and kind of like a GPU effects heavy on there as well. So if you're looking at the color grade, you can see the nodes here. I know noise reduction should be the first node, but so there's curves, 2 LUTs, and noise reduction on there. And then the second part of this, the yellow part of this export, is just simple. There's no color grade or nothing on there, just a simple kind of testing the up-resing and down-resing of the actual computers or the encoders. How well do they do that? Don't worry, it's just gone offline in here, but actually it was all online when I was actually doing the test. But when we're looking at the results, the M2 Mac Mini did it in 1 hour and 43 minutes and 35 seconds, which is very, very long time considering the actual, effects and stuff that you have on there. And what I have seen is in my exporting test on the Mac Mini, if you want to see that, M2 Pro versus a PC for the same amount of money, like $1,300, you'll see more in detail in there that the actual GPU is the bottleneck here, especially if you're doing some of the LUTs and things, and down-resing and up-resing. The M2 is not very good at doing that. Windows PC is better, but these two are still bottlenecked by the GPU, and that's why the M2 is still winning. And the UM690 is 32% actually slower. M2 finished in 1 hour 43 minutes and 35 seconds, and the UM690 finished at 2 hours and 16 minutes and 42 seconds. So another huge win for the Mac. It finished it 30 minutes earlier, which is quite a huge time saving in there. But if we went to M2 Pro, we would completed it even faster just because of the faster GPU. And last, what we want to test is the SSD speeds inside both of the machines. We're going to press start. Write speeds about 1.7. About what's going on the PC? Going down, down, down. About 1.6 and 1.5. 1.3, 1.4 write speeds, and about 1.5 read speeds. Read speeds on the PC are 3.5 gigabytes per second. Interesting, the write speed on the actual SSD is not very good, so which makes me think that they might have QLC flash or some other flash that is very quickly run out or run full. Because actually you can see some of the write speeds, you can get 2.5 gigs and then it comes down there. As you can see, read speed 3.3 gigabytes per second. So about PCIe Gen 3 speeds, look at that, 3.5 speed read, but the write speed, it can't quite get it there because the actual cache there runs out. I'm not sure if it has DRAM there, because that write speeds is horrendous there. If you just wait here now, let it empty that and go again. Look at that write speeds, 1.1, 1.2. But then again, I'm not sure if it has DRAM there. So the read speeds are more than double the speeds on the actual Windows PC, which makes it actually feel very, very snappy. But the write speeds aren't as fast on the Windows PC and are much faster on the Mac, about 1.5 gigabytes per second. So about 5 times as fast, something like that, compared to the Windows PC. But sometimes the burst speeds of write, if you're not writing big files, will be much faster still on the Windows PC, up to 2.2, 2.5 gigabytes per second. So then, which is the winner here? And as you can see, the M2 has a lot of potential. Now, it is much bigger than what we have over here, but I think it is probably better for most people out there. And if you can upgrade the RAM, so you're not going to be bottlenecked by the RAM, but that's the biggest downside that you have with the M2. You'll very quickly start to realize that you need the upgrades, but you'll have to pay a big price for them, and you have to pay it up front. You can't upgrade anything later, which you can do on the mini PC. You can put more RAM in there, swap it out, no problem, but you can't do that on the M2 Mac Mini. And then there's the ecosystem. Obviously, if you love the Mac ecosystem, you're going to get that one. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Maybe you want something that's simple, kind of doing emails, just kind of home, kind of simple office PC where you don't do a lot of video editing or complicated GPU heavy kind of visual effects. But if you're do the Photoshop or something like that, that Mac Mini will be absolutely amazing. And you might have to just look into external storage, something like that. If you haven't seen my video, go check it out. But if you're looking purely a CPU rendering and heavy kind of CPU powerhouse, then this PC here, the UM690 from minisforum, is completely on another level and about 50% faster in terms of CPU rendering alone. Now, there's certain use cases where you'd need that more, but depending on your workflow and what you need and how do you want to use them. But I think both of them have very interesting edges, and what surprised me the most is the size factor of this UM690, how much smaller this is compared to the Mac Mini, and how much more powerful this is in terms of the cooling and the CPU power. In terms of encoding and video editing, the M2 has a huge edge there, but when you're doing video editing, I highly recommend checking out the M2 Pro, because it will be quite a significant upgrade, but it will also cost double the price, so there's that. But you kind of get double the SSD, double the RAM and all of that as well. So there's that dilemma. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'd love to know from you. And then lastly, the power efficiency. The Mac is much more power efficient when it is fully utilized. But as you can see, some of the idle tasks, they're not that different. Here it idles actually less. The Windows PC here, can you see 7 watts compared to the 8 watts. But when we're fully loading and using the system, the Mac will be more power efficient, especially if you use this as a rendering kind of farmhouse or rendering kind of machine connected to your NAS or something like that. Then the Mac Mini will be much more power efficient. But will you see or feel the power bill actually long term in a year? I don't think so. I'd love to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.